Woo, we are back with another episode of Hobby Time. I am here joined with my good friend here, Eric, and through the technical difficulties, we shall persevere.
Made it.
Oh my goodness. But even though, Skype decided to be poopy with us and OBS is starting to throw a tantrum, we will not let any of that stop us from getting you this week's Warhammer content. So, what are you up to right now, Eric? How's life going?
Life is been busy. I'm currently working this week on cleaning out my gaming area to make it free, and next week I'll be building a new 40K table down there with all the extras up, the shelving and ink holders and dice holders and all sorts of stuff.
Nice. Are you doing the new like the new size of the gaming table? Or are you just
Haven't decided yet. I think I might just stick with the 4 foot by 6 foot, just because. That's mainly because of going with especially a larger game. Might want a little bit more space.
Yeah. It allows you to do
That's kind of my thing.
Yeah, it allows you to do like a, I don't know, 2,500 point game. That's an interesting. Do you think that now that everything's going to get more expensive, that people are just going to do bigger tournaments? Like instead of the 2,000 point tournament, you're going to see 2,500 point tournaments, which will be the same amount of models in the same time frame.
I don't think so. I think with the game is going a little bit more back towards 7th edition, where things are getting a little more complicated. As far as get any more time theoretically for these larger events to discuss what terrain is, if they're not going to tell you what each piece of terrain is, as far as being a light cover, heavy cover, obscured. There seems to be a lot of new names being thrown around for terrain that are going to be used. And with that as well, I think the way command points are going to work is changing, especially with the new update today that they put out for the Death Guard, where they leaked a little bit of it as far as gaining command points at every turn.
So, I didn't actually read this yet. This will be the first time I'm seeing any of it myself. But I've got in the background the Death Guard stuff up and ready. So, what's kind of going on with that? Like,
So what I read is they talked about the way single faction works, as far as if you are just going monofaction and using one or the battalion that they posted up, the 12 CP battalions. It looks like if you read through it, there's a little section towards the middle of how they play the Death Guard, and it says something about not only will you have the 12 CP to work with, but you gain a free CP at the beginning of every turn.
yeah,
Kind of like they do in Age of Sigmar.
that was actually released earlier too.
Something similar to it was. They didn't go full on detail on it, but it was the way they worded it before is you have access to extra CP as the game goes, but they didn't verify how that was happening.
Gotcha. And
To get a little bit more info on it was kind of nice.
Yeah. And then John in the chat talked about 12-inch grenades, 12-inch blight grenades. So if blight grenades have that like burst or blast, whatever that is, that keyword in Overwatch,
the auto D6, the mortal wound output on that stratagem is nasty.
Yeah, it would be insane. Because a 30-man group of orcs comes running at you, and then you just chuck 12 of those.
Yeah, you throw 10 of them in a Plague Marine squad, and then you're throwing 60 mortal wounds out, plus the damage on top of it is silly.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm not going to complain about it because I think it's comical.
Yeah. And I will apologize real quick. I am detecting some drop frames on OBS's end, so if we're studying a little bit, it is OBS, and we were aware of it. We tried to fix it before we started, but it's just being a crapshoot today.
Skype was not our friend either.
Yeah. So, getting back to the meat and potatoes of it, they showed off the Cloud of Flies stratagem for Death Guard, the 1 CP movement phase, Death Guard infantry, until the start of your next movement phase. Models can only shoot this unit if it's the closest visible target. Was that 1 CP before?
Yeah.
That's actually nice.
It was good. The problem that they had is Death Guard points heavy. You really couldn't spend a lot to get multiple battalions, so you're getting extra CP and doing it that way. Most Death Guard, I think, capped at about 10 CP. So when you're spending 4 or 5 of them on Cloud of Flies for your game, you're already cutting into half your stuff. So these extra CP that they're talking about really helps boost these 1 CP strats that you really want to use, kind of like Chaos and Veterans of the Long War or whatnot. It's sure, why not do that? You know, with demons even saying, okay, now I want to really buy those capture standards on my Slanesh Demonettes or my Seekers or whatnot. So you're getting I'm going to get the CP back anyway. Might as well spend the 1 CP to have cool banners. There's going to be some perks with these extra CPs generated.
Yeah, do you so armies that are super CP heavy, Death Guard was Space Marines to some extent. That's why they brought the CP battery of Imperial Guard. Knights were really CP starved.
Chaos always UCP. Like on average in any of my bigger events that I was playing, I was burning 4 or 5 in pregame, and then another 6 to 7 right from turn 1. So I was pretty starved after turn 1.
Do you think that's gonna change in this new 9th edition from what you've seen? Like,
I think it'll help. It's going to allow people to spend some CP on some of these 3 CP stratagems, like the fight again, or using Vect. I mean, why not? I have the ability to use it more than once now.
Yeah, because especially with the way that's worded on how you generate extra CP, it's based on you get 1 on your turn and you get 1 on your opponent's turn in every command phase. Yeah. So if Vect still costs 4, that means in a 4-turn game you get 2 Vex for free.
That's going to be pretty intense, I think.
Yeah,
I'm all right with it. I enjoyed the special abilities that you got with the stratagems. So to being able to be seeing more stratagems that normally you wouldn't see throughout the game, I think are gonna just make the game that much better.
Yeah,
it's gonna be able to maybe diversify the meta, not just have a standard list being played, because now you can say, okay, I really want to use this stratagem. You can build around stratagems, not just build around what's good in the army.
And it'll make the situational stratagems a little better because you could get yourself into that situation and have the CP to use the stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just like the demons +1 invul and save. Now I can use it practically free every turn.
Yeah.
Just huge. 2-point CP to get +1 invul. Now if I'm get my free one on my turn, take your free one on your turn, and then shooting phase, I'm +1 invul on these dudes.
So that brought up a good point too. Even with the CP kind of flood in, all the armies that kind of bled a little bit of CP every turn, they won't be doing that anymore. They'll hold steady and they'll essentially have their 12 banked for whenever.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I like about the leveling of the command points. So when you sit there and you look at like having a red Corsair's battalion giving you theoretically 11 CP is just nuts. So
Yeah.
it's going to make it so you're like, oh, okay, there's no reason for me to have that anymore. I'm just going to gain my additional on top of that with not. But I mean, they'll still start out with theoretically 18,
Yeah.
just doing a battalion of that. Which again, that'll allow them to push into soup if soup is going to be a thing.
Yeah, I personally
Not be
I
hurt by
think
it.
that GW and everything they've shown has just been putting nail after nail after nail into soup. So I think
I
that
think
that coffin will be pretty damn near closed by the time ninth
yeah,
officially comes
I
out.
think that it can still be there, but theoretically, the way they're talking, if you are running multiple armies or factions, you might get screwed out over on the extra CP during the turn, whatnot. Which, if that's the case, cool. You want to run stuff like that, run it, and we'll do something different.
Yeah, and that'll be like not only would you be taking the hit for having the extra battalion that you don't have a warlord in, so you're paying the CP up front, but then not getting the extra every turn. I mean, that could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 extra CP you're costing overall through the whole game by just
I mean,
having that little bit.
exactly. Yeah, you're paying the 3, and it could cost you 11 CP altogether. You're
Yeah.
paying for 3 points for another battalion, and then you're talking you're losing out potentially on 8 CP for a 4 turn game if that's how far you're going. So 11 CP right there you just lost,
Yeah.
which is kind of game changing with some of the way these strats work.
For the rest of these Death Guard, I didn't. I saw that they released the Plague Burst Mortar rules, which I don't think had anything in them new.
No,
And then the Silent Bodyguard, Death Guard characters hit by a
nothing.
ranged or melee weapon. Um,
I don't think anything changed on there either. It's just showing it's going to be a blast weapon.
Now, I did play a game early on in 8th where they brought this bodyguard with Mortarion to keep Morty alive, like from turn 1 shooting, which
It's
worked, but it's so
it's pretty good.
expensive. Like the
It
bodyguard
is,
squad is like almost as much as Morty himself.
yeah, but it's a lot of wounds to chew through. The 2 up save and a 5 up, 5 up. Can take the shots. I'd rather have one of them die to the last cannon than Morty getting hit with his 6 wounds.
Ooh, revolting stench. That's got to be new, right? That's the new. I don't think that they had that before.
Oh, this is yeah. I think this is out of the new codex. It just came out the War of the Spider.
Um, revolting stench basically says that it takes away the fight first in close combat for charging, and the second part, the way that I'm reading it, it takes away the fight first in close combat from even units that are like Slanesh. They fight
Yeah,
normally.
it's like the what's his face, the mask of Vector, whatever it is that we put on Homoculi.
Yeah, but it's against. I don't know exactly what would have the revolting stench if that's um, a particular unit or an army wide buff, but that could be huge, especially
Yeah, I'm
with
not sure what of.
so
It's enemy units that charged, so they're within 7 inches. Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and it's I think you're gonna see that GW released a lot of news on like what's gonna be against shooty armies. Like, oh, their Overwatch changed, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and Um, the the a bunch of stuff that makes combat units better. They're releasing a whole bunch of new combat units. Um, that changed the charging was huge.
Yeah, the change of charge is really, really big.
Uh, Actually, do you want to touch on that while we're touching on this stratagem real quick? What they did to change charging for ninth edition?
Oh, what they ended up doing is basically if you're declaring a multi-charge against or more units, if you don't make the roll to touch all of them, or would be within engagement range, which is 1 inch, your charge fails and nobody moves. So our berserkers can't just they want to charge everything within 12 and then easy chain on out as they swing and pile in and kill units. They have to actually be able to reach them.
So
It
just
didn't say go for it.
oh no, sorry. Just to reiterate for the people that don't know exactly what was going on in eighth edition, basically a unit could declare as many charge targets that were within 12 inches of it, and it only had to make one of those charges.
Yes.
So you could declare against every unit within 12 inches. All those units get to fire Overwatch if they wanted to, which changed a little bit. And then you only had to touch one of them in order to be a successful charge. But now in ninth edition, that's not the case.
It allowed you to also say there were people that were 11, 12 inches away and you roll 10 inches, you could still consolidate in and swing at them. So that was the benefit then. Now you don't have theoretically don't have that option. So still don't know the full wording on it. That was just the partial wording as far as what was released, but like say with Core Berserkers, say I want to charge everything within 8 inches. I roll my 8. I don't have to reach out and touch the unit within 8. I can still swing at the unit that's closest, and then pile in and swing at them is the way I understood it. But until we know the full wording on it, it's up in the air whether or not you actually have to reach out and touch them too.
How would that change your army building for ninth edition, knowing that yeah, you get the benefit that Overwatch is essentially going to be turned off most of the time, and
I don't know if how much of it would change. As far as still being close combat, it's all still about reaching out, touching a unit, and wrapping something else. It just makes you have to kind of commit a little bit more of really nilling it all over the place.
Yeah, but the smaller board side will help you in the commitment of it.
Yes, and so will the new terrain. Being able to like some of these heavily fortified terrain, all that, being able to reroll misses or getting saving throws as you're charging in, or being in it and getting better saving throws. There's some cool stuff for these assault armies. The other one that was just recently leaked, it wasn't leaked by GW at all, but it was posted up with all the other rules on somebody's text messages on one of our my Facebook groups, and there is if enemy units fall back, even if they have the fly keyword right now. So in 8th edition, if you have the fly keyword and you fall back from combat, you can shoot. It's no longer the case. So
interesting.
That is true. That's a huge thing too, to go, okay, I've now swung for the unit I'm engaged with. Now I'm gonna branch off and hit 3 or 4 more units. Now they've got to run away and they can't shoot. That's huge.
Yeah, that's there was actually a Spiky Bits article yesterday, which was kind of a one of their semi cringeworthy like clickbaity titles, but it was the fall of the Eldar, how GW is destroying the Eldar race competitively.
They're getting hurt pretty hard on this one.
Yeah, and as an Eldar player, like I feel that a little bit, but yeah, if they take away the flying, being able to leave and still do something, that's almost everything I got right now. That was
it's going to neuter all jet bikes, anything that swooping hawks, planes. And it's going to be interesting if planes are in combat and they have to run. How they can't shoot. That could be interesting.
Yeah, you might as well leave then. If you're a plane and someone charges you and you get into combat, you might as well just get off the board.
Exactly. That's the reason why you just leave the table.
Yeah. And then that is a change to 9th edition. Flyers now can leave the board and come back, which is good. And
I think I really like that, especially the way the new terrain works, as being able to hide models in terrain, and having the flyer then pull off the table, and you're then able to place it back on the table, basically wherever you want, inside the limitations that they put in with the close enough to enemy units. I can't. Yeah, it's going to allow you to get behind cover and shoot at the unit that you originally couldn't see. It's going to be neat. Flyers actually have a role outside of blocking.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. And it also will help with like just to get onto this like revolting stench. That is almost the same thing numerically as Zinch's, or not Zinch, Slaaneash's entire thing. Like, so if you get charged by Slaanesh, then you go alternating because Slaanesh is always considered charged, right?
Yes.
But now if you charge Nurgle, you go alternating because Nurgle slows you down instead of Slaanesh speeding itself up.
Yeah, it's going to basically make it where we're going back and forth, which I'm fine with. I think it makes Nurgle or the Death Guard actually better. Something they've always needed.
Yeah, because they're a lot of times, because of their speed, Death Guard are the ones getting charged. So this will get a little bit of help to that aspect of it. Which is cool. I think we'll throw up next. I think Orcs was the next faction focus that came out.
Orcs were up there. All sorts of them. Sisters came out at one point.
Yeah. So the Burn Obama and the Flying Headbutt or Edbutt. I like this.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
Auto crash and burn.
So I know we got John and Nurgle in the chat right now blowing it up, but the flyer, the Burn Obama, actually has like a decent crash and burn. Like I think it's like 6 inches and it's D6 mortals or something crazy when it does crash and burn.
I'm not 100% sure. I don't think they've ever really played against it, so I can't really verify.
Yeah, John, I agree that the Orc faction focus didn't really give you anything new because the Orcs were, I think it's because the Orcs were just touched and that a lot of the stuff in the Orc faction through Psychic Awakening was written for 9th edition anyway, that they're not going to go and rewrite the wheel again. Oh, so it's a flat 3 mortals for the plane. That could be huge against against Tau or any gunline army. Turn 1, you Edbutt one of your planes into them and then bomb the other 2, flying them off the board. Turn 2, you fly 1 back on and Edbutt again. Turn 3, fly the next one on and Edbutt again. That's
it could be interesting against things like the possess bomb and all that's been going around now, as far as anything with character heavy, because the auto go up and blow up and 3 mortal wounds with some of these characters makes it you're not wanting to cast psychic powers or whatnot for buffs because you're already down to 1 wound and Herald is just going to kill you.
Yeah.
And you're just going to blow up and do more damage to your stuff around you.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of small characters that are going to be hiding. Do you want to touch on that too? That was a thing that came out, is the new character rule, where it's very similar to how it was in 8th edition. It's a little more wordy, I think, because it has to be. But
it's good. But I'll call it Lookout, sir. Basically, it was instead of having characters now being the closest, if they were within 3 inches of units, can not be shot at. Right, the new Lookout, sir. Models cannot be targeted. Models cannot target a unit that contains any character models, wound characteristics of 9 or less, ranged weapons while they're within 3 inches of any other friendly unit, basically, or monster.
So
I didn't fully read this.
So it's vehicles and monsters allow characters to hide easily. Like just one model will hide the character.
That's what it's saying.
But then infantry, you need a set number. I think it's at least more than 3, right? More than 3 models needs
more than 3 characters. Yeah, more than 3 models
will hide a character.
Yes, and other characters don't hide characters.
Which would be interesting because that gives you a little leeway if you have a 5-man intercessor squad hiding a smash captain. Basically, all you have to do is kill 2 intercessors, and then you're free game to shoot that smash captain.
And it's also comical to have them hiding behind a rhino now too.
Yeah, they could hide a rhino, hide behind any vehicle or any monster. I think this is I like that they included monsters because that's gonna make the Nid swarms so much better.
We're gonna see a lot more bugs and demon prince spam again.
Yeah, although do you think that FAQ that's going to be you can only have 3 demon princes no matter what their names are is still going to apply?
And that's still in there.
Yeah, I think
it was
that's still
silly when you were able to have more than 3.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to stay in there. Hit them harder. Sorry to go back to the orc faction focus. Basically add 1 damage to melee weapons to Mega Knobs. One of our teammates, Matt T, he brought a lot of Mega Knobs as kind of like a fun, fluffy thing. But I don't see anyone bringing enough Mega Knobs other than in a lore based army to benefit from a 1 CP plus 1 damage. But like we said earlier, and like you brought up, Eric, which was a good point, that these 1 CP stratagems, even the ones that are like just a little bit, trying to fix my camera, just a little bit like circumstantial, they're way better now because you get the extra 1 CP on your turn, 1 CP on your opponent's turn. So hit them harder. If you got Mega Knobs in combat, maybe you just do it because it doesn't cost you as much.
Not really losing it.
Now, does this make competitive 40k that much harder too? Because in competitive 40k, now you need to not only know your opponent's army, everything your opponent's going to be bringing to the table, models and rules wise, but now all of your opponent's stratagems, because they're all viable now. Like before, I only needed to know like 3 or 4 stratagems out of every army because that's what everybody used. Now they got free range of the whole book.
I always felt it was wise to know all the stratagems as well, or at least attempt to. Because you never wanted to be caught off guard. I mean, you end up playing that one salamanders guy who ends up getting the auto hits on his speeders and all that, which is it's just gross. So you got to know what you're doing and going against, or having the speeders end up charging because you declared a charge within so many inches. There's some silly things out there that you kind of need to know that you're not expecting to see. You still might see it. Game one, you never know what you're gonna play against.
Yeah, you don't. But that kind of led to the all those gotchas like Matt and John are talking about right now. Like Gotcha Hammer was what caused a lot of the feel badsies in the competitive scene.
It,
Not
it really
like playing a game and knowing what each opponent's trying to do and what you're trying to do, and then letting it play out and rolling dice and actually like having your moves and his moves be the consequences of the actions made for a better competitive experience in my experience than just someone going gotcha, I baited you and I didn't tell you I had the stratagem and now I do and now you've lost.
There was always some saltiness if that ever happened to anybody. Even with the stuff that the Slanesh, I mean, I was always very careful to say, hey, these are what I have. These are what you might see. Can't guarantee you'll see them, but not a lot of people know about Slanesh, so I was always upfront with everybody going, this is what could happen. Theoretically, I can make you -3 to hit. I can make you -2 attacks, and I can buff it so I get a crazy ton of attacks on top of that as well.
So I think that's just going to be another thing for from 8th to 9th edition, just being courteous and open with your opponent. You don't need to tell them everything you're currently doing, but just some things that could happen so that you try and at least mitigate the gotcha moments. If you at least appear to be open and honest with it, then if a gotcha moment does happen, you've already built up that like social stock in yourself that you're not a giant toolbox.
Exactly.
They're playing against.
Sure, tempting. Yeah, the cool thing that I saw in the orc action focus was the way they brought up shooting in combat. Now looks like
the orc
you can shoot out in close combat. No, it doesn't even just talk about orc vehicles. It talks about squads of boys and stuff too, and rockets and stuff. So
now it says shooting the rockets before close combat and then shooting the other guns in close combat. I think
close combat. It might be talking about just pistols, but
yeah, I think the way I read it, it was talking about the pistols and the boys in the car being able to shoot out in close combat, because I think rockets are going to be blast weapons. And those have already ruled out that the blast weapons can't be shot in close combat.
That I get, but you might be saying theoretically, my hunch is gamers being allowed to be shot.
Yeah. It's kind of going out with some emotes right now, but we'll touch on this too. I think I'm going to start working with an artist on the next set of emotes. Josh graciously subscribed to us and allowed us to unlock the next set of emotes anyway. But I'm thinking we build them as tables. So there's going to be a left side and a right side. And then you have like a guy laughing for LOL, or a guy angry for or a guy celebrating for hype. And then you could build, once we have the two end caps, you could build like a centerpiece table emote with salt on it for like saltiness, and people could build little like table stories, like war gaming stories, where they do a left table, a right table, and a center, and they just like, you could mix and match in chat your emotes together to build your little wargaming table.
All right, cool.
I think that'd be cool. I think you could take that into other people's chats and like have go spam our emotes in other people's chats to build little wargaming tables. But
that's neat.
Moving on. Sorry, a little bit.
You're good.
Word vomit. So it does look like Sistoris is the next one of the faction focuses that came out. This again, just like orcs, it's one of the newest. They just got their rules, so I don't really foresee a lot of updates. And this is where the lookout sir came into play.
Yes, because I think sisters are going to start running vehicle heavy.
You think
They're
that like
raiders and flat.
the missile engine thing that shot off 10,000 missiles or whatever that is that looks like an organ?
D6 exorcists are going to still be in play. I think you're going to see dependent engines making a comeback. Those things are going to be pretty rock solid.
Now, I think that is going to be the new gun line because I think a infantry gun line is going to be very hard to pull off in ninth edition because you're going to need like squishy infantry with both infantry killing weapons and vehicle killing weapons and enough stopping power to stop yourself from being run over. Where a vehicle gun line only really needs vehicle killing weapons, some infantry killing weapons to kill the infantry that could hurt a vehicle, but a lot of infantry can't hurt vehicles effectively. And you can shoot in close combat, so put one heavy bolter on your Leman Russ and then deck out the rest of it with anti-vehicle stuff and run it around the board.
Yeah, you're going to see some. There's going to be a lot of changes. I think they're all for greater cause and to make this game better.
Yeah. And we haven't seen John just pointed out the flamers and melee. That's going to be a thing, but we haven't seen rules on it. So flamers can't be blast weapons if they're shot in melee.
Flamers are not blast weapons. They have verified that flamers are not blast weapons. So that's my thought is they're going to be able to be shot at. That's the case. Awesome. Why not have them shooting you?
Yeah. Which is interesting because then flamers are not necessarily even as good as like grenades in Overwatch. Because if you have blast and you're shooting Overwatch, you'll get all those shots.
Most grenades are only strength 3.
Yeah, that's true.
Even the drag grenade is only just don't see it because I'd rather shoot a pistol over a grenade.
Yeah. Well, and then in Overwatch though, would you even at strength 3, would you rather use the grenade if you got a guaranteed 6 hits? Or guaranteed 6 attacks?
It was so situational. The grenades only had 8-inch range, so theoretically you're out of range when people are charging. There were I shoot a strength 3 grenade that I might get D6 hits, but I need 6s to hit and then 6s to wound. I'm shooting at toughness 6 models. And not try for the only needing 5s for one shot. I mean, they're so situational. What do you ever really think? It's free war gear.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think out of any of the tournaments that I've been to, or even friendly play that I've ever watched anybody random like, hey, I'm going to chuck this random grenade at you. It's always really shoot my bolter. You're trying to keep the game moving, and that's a big part.
Yeah, I agree. The last right seems cool. I mean, I'm pretty sure they had this already, but they basically ignore the models killed during the morale phase.
Yes. It basically makes them
Then the embodied prophecy, the use this stratagem at the start of the fight phase. Select one Zephyrim squad, so the jump pack ladies that are shown above, unit from your army until the end of that phase when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in a friendly Adeptus Sororitas unit within 6 inches. That Zephyrim unit rerolls a wound rolls of 1. So wait. Okay, so basically they make a bubble that themselves, because they are within 6 inches of themselves, and every other unit within 6 inches of them reroll wound rolls of 1, which is nice because I think aren't sisters strength 3?
I think they're. I have that book. I thought they were strength 4. Just.
Hey, Victor. Yeah. I think that I understand what you're trying to get at, and I think that that's the same ability, and you're right with that as well. And then John did bring up that he's excited for the orc units in cover to be able to overwatch on 5s with the exploding 6s with the Ludas in cover.
That's gonna be huge.
Yeah. Do you think? Well,
terrain.
It'll be big in terrain, but it'll also be telegraphable because your Ludas are going to be in cover where you're going to want them in cover anyway, John. Like it's going to be their thing, but you're going to know that you're going to be able to do that. And maybe you make that charge last, you move up like you're going to charge the Ludas, and then you make every other charge knowing that they're going to hold that 1 CP to Overwatch for the Ludas, and then don't charge the Ludas. Then just don't charge them, because hitting on 5s, rerolling 6s is the exact same as a normal shooting phase for orcs. So you've basically baited them. You're going to take 1 turn of shooting anyway on the next turn, or you'll take the turn of shooting now in Overwatch. If you bait them to like hold on to their Overwatch because you're threatening the charge on the Ludas, you get every other charge in with no Overwatch. Or you say, okay, go ahead and Overwatch over here. Then I'm going to charge the Ludas because then they can't fire Overwatch.
Yep.
Which is it's a great kind of mind game that you get to play now with your opponent. So John's right that trick is good, and if you get the opportunity to use it, definitely use it from an orc player standpoint. But now it's no longer a gotcha if your opponent can use that against you, you know?
And I think the way Overwatch works now is beneficial for the game. It's like everybody's getting a little poke from different rules.
Yeah, so I screened through this Sisters thing. 2 of their rules on the Sisters release are general 8th edition or 9th edition game rules. They're not even for Sisters. So the second thing that came up is big guns never tire, a vehicle or monster model.
And that's a the action releases. Big game never tires.
So they could make attacks with ranged weapons even when it's within engagement range of an enemy unit, but it could only make such attacks against enemy units that are within its engagement range. So you're shooting at stuff that you're touching, which could be interesting. This adds the complexity that if your tank gets charged from the front and you're not base to base, pile in your tank, swing the butt of the tank around, and touch something else. Touch another unit. Because then you just take your guns and you rapid fire into that next thing that you're touching because you're within engagement range of it. Like it means your opponent has to be real careful with his buff characters that are coming in to combat as well, because if the grots are going to wrap the tank to try and just hold it down, but the buff character sitting right behind the grots within an inch of the tank unload into the character.
It's like my mic is picking up the builders out front.
Yeah, you're good. You get a little bit of a hum, but this is the first time I've heard any of it.
They're grinding right now.
Oh. Yeah.
I'm definitely excited for the big guns that retire. It has a place for dreadnoughts and Hellroots and uh, Mauler fiends and Forge fiends and all the stuff that you normally wouldn't see in a game or very much in game.
Yeah.
I mean, even the characters. I mean, you're talking Murderfang is going to be interesting now.
Yeah, Murderfang. I'm not sure Murderfang had any range weapons though. He had the shield and the claw, right?
I thought he had a flamer.
He had a flamer. Oh,
I
yeah.
thought he had a flamer. Maybe one or two.
That shows
When you're
exactly how
talking,
useful those flamers were when you
yeah,
were fighting with Murderfang.
exactly. Then he had the librarian dreadnought. He's got some shooty abilities, and all the dreadnoughts had access to something. I mean, even the soul grinders and defilers now have a real place.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So moving on to the next. That was Sisters. Looking at let's see. Let's get the next one. They had alternate color schemes come out, so that kind of is what it is. Paint your guys blue, paint your guys red, do whatever you want. It's
Do that anyway.
Yeah.
Nothing new.
So this is the big one, the thing that made everyone poop their pants. Overwatch. Changes to Overwatch. Now we did kind of talk about it. We touched on it, but there's even more to it than just the fact that it's a stratagem now that costs 1 CP. But it's
and that's awesome.
It's kind of insane. Like now that you know that there's only one unit that can fire Overwatch in a turn usually, because once you use a stratagem in a phase, it can't be used again that same phase.
There's going to be some armies that are able to do it more, like they were saying Tau. Might see some new strats and some new books that come out saying units can fire Overwatch or whatnot, kind of like they have uh, before. So come up with some of those silly things before.
So when do you use the fire Overwatch stratagem?
When someone declares it as a target.
Chosen as a target and fire Overwatch before the charge rolls. Okay, got it. So the fire Overwatch stratagem is a core stratagem, so everyone will have access to it. It'll be in the core rulebook, along with auto pass morale, fight out a turn, and what's the last one? I always forget what the last one is.
So there was
reroll a dice. Never mind, reroll a dice. Yeah. That gets used so often that I forget that it's just a stratagem everyone gets a.
And then there's the other new one where if a unit falls back, you can 6+ take mortal wounds for engaged models.
Do you think that's gonna affect a whole lot? Like, I mean, I guess
it could. So the comical thing is, like I was talking about, is charge one unit, but you're really
Ooh, I think Eric's internet just pooped out on himself. So, give me a second. I'm gonna try and get him back real quick.
then we've got other things.
Hey, sorry. Either internet on my end or internet on your end. Kind of went crazy for a second. So, they missed out on what you just tried to say.
All of that. It looks
basically everything you tried to say. No one heard. But everything should be back. So
maybe seen everything. I got your face on my face.
Yeah. So when it loads in, they could hear you. You have audio, but you just want to have video for right now, so we can keep going.
Yeah, like I was saying though, is basically the main thing with that stratagem is kind of like I was talking about, where you're reaching out, charging something, but your real target is being locked in combat with another unit. If you're having your 30-man WoW squad, 3 or 4 dudes on one unit, swing at them while the other squad is wrapped around the other unit, pile in, they swing at you because you didn't declare them. The condition is staying, or if that's staying the same in the 8th right now. They want to go away, they can try to run away or do whatever they want, but now they're taking mortal wounds.
Now, is
free,
that a dice per engaged model that the aggressor has, or a dice per engaged model that's leaving close combat?
The person using the strats models.
So if you've got a 30-man orc squad and you just wrap a Tau or a character that doesn't want to be there, the character falls back and dies because it's only got 3 or 4 wounds and you've got 30 guys wrapped around it, you know?
And I'm looking at this as amazing for my demonettes, because they're only on 25 mil bases. I can get 2 ranks on that.
Yeah, your demonettes come in, or whatever large squad is. Yeah.
But most models are on 32 mil now. So having the demonettes on 25 allows me to have 2 rows of models inside the engagement room.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
It is huge. And it's
now instead of having an average of 6 to 8 models wrapping, now I'm up to 15 to 20. I don't pump out 3 or 4 mortal wounds on average is not bad.
I'm getting, just a behind the scenes thing, I'm getting that you have to turn your video on again, or maybe I do. I don't know. Who knows?
Maybe I attempted.
Either way, well, I'm just getting a little pinwheel of death from you now, but that is what it is. They still have audio.
I'll get that on you now. Oh, maybe. So I don't care.
Yeah. So, Overwatch, the 3 rules of it: before charge rolls are made, all charge targets that can fire Overwatch can do so, and then you can never fire Overwatch while an enemy unit is in engagement range, and then when firing Overwatch, shoot with that unit, but attacks only hit on unmodified rolls of 6s. So. And then they also touched on terrain benefits. This is just one rule, defensible, so we can go ahead and assume that there's going to be other rules for terrain other than just defensible. But defensible terrain, infantry units can hold steady or set to defend if no enemy units are within engagement range. So I wonder when you actually declare that. Hold steady, you can Overwatch attacks on 5+, and then set to defend. Sorry, go ahead.
So my guess is this part is going to be done in the command phase if you have multiple abilities with defensible terrain.
Yeah.
It may be allowed to be changed. If it's not allowed to be changed, it's going to be in pregame game setup.
Yeah. It may even be, I could see them arguing that you could do this during Overwatch. You could just choose if you're going to hold steady or set to defend.
Yes.
And that's just, which would be that one unit gets to hold steady because they're the ones firing Overwatch, and then every other unit setting to defend because they can't fire Overwatch anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're talking core berserkers or anything that's all melee is going to be amazing with +1 to hit.
Now, also, they started talking about this cool-headed, which seems to be a trait that you can get, so that you may find that some units benefit from other special rules that modify Overwatch as well, such as the Tau Empire's for the greater good special rule, one of our favorite new ones is from the battle trait that you receive from the Crusade Force. So GW came out and said that Crusade will be balanced with match play. How can that be if your Crusade Force can just Overwatch everything? Like, the new rules for the Crusade upgrades seem interesting and cool, but they seem like stuff that you'd pay points for. So I don't understand how GW can balance that with a match play 9th edition army.
I don't know how they're going to do that.
It's rough, but I mean that it'd be very interesting. I think it's a real cool rule to be able to just fire Overwatch anyway, and then fire Overwatch not only allows you to do it, but when you do it, you hit on 5s and 6s. Do you think that this one saying unmodified 5s and 6s, and then the defensible terrain not saying unmodified like the other ones do, does that mean if you hold steady, if you have additional pluses to hit, that you'll actually get modification to that roll?
Probably not.
Yeah, I would lean with you saying probably not. That's probably not the intent of that rule, but I could definitely see some rules lawyers saying they've gone through and they've said unmodified everywhere else. They did not say unmodified here.
I think it's still going to fall underneath like the Overwatch ability as far as Overwatch only hitting on 6s. It's still referencing Overwatch. Now it's just on a 5+. Instead of saying, okay, Overwatch now happens on a 5. Does that mean 6s don't hit? I have to have that play.
Yeah.
For that reason.
I agree. The last faction focus that we'll touch on, Space Marines. Of course, they're going to get a new faction focus. They're the poster children of the format. Their big blue boys are going to be everywhere. I do think it's interesting, though, that their key units and their faction focus, they're not really Primaris. Thunderfire cannons, Devastator squads in drop pods they're calling out. And then I guess the Primaris Lieutenant at the end. But the first two of the three, not Primaris units.
They even talked about the Whirlwind Scorpius and all that in there too. And the different dreadnoughts and war suits.
So the Whirlwind Scorpius, that's a Forge World unit, right?
I think they're all talking about blast weapons and all that, mainly with those.
Gotcha. Okay.
They're bringing up a bunch of blast weapons on it, whatnot.
Now, I played against Tremor Shells in a 2+ to hit Thunderfire cannon with a Tech Marine, and for 1 CP, man, your day sucks.
I think this unit is total garbage.
You do? How do you play against it?
Too good. It's too points cost is too low. How do I play against it? I run more than 2 assault units. That's the only thing I can do.
Yeah, because they could double fire it, right?
1 CP to double fire it, and then they spend this for another one to Tremor Shell both.
Yeah, and they Tremor Shell both. I don't think that GW was thinking that they were going to be able to Tremor Shell multiple units for just 2 CP. That's rough. Yeah.
Unless they're changing this to theoretically only allowing the Tremor Shell to be active on one shot, and the other shot is not Tremor Shell.
Yeah,
I'm fine. Whatever.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that the wording though there is that until the end of the phase. So as soon as you use the Tremor Shells, you're still shooting in that phase. But it'd be
Yes.
interesting. It'd be interesting to see if this guy gets the Thunderfire Cannon gets the vehicle keyword, because if it doesn't, just reach out and touch the Thunderfire Cannon and it can't shoot anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's going to be, and that would be amazing. But
I'm
again, those things are always hiding in the back with all of its indirect fire.
Yeah, yeah, fighting in a building.
Although that's going to change now too with the outflank stuff that we're getting.
Yeah, that's true. The You're gonna see more
Turn
melee, and you'll
well
see faster melee.
with the outflank, it's talking. Turn one, you can come in off your board edge. Turn two is off your board edge or side edges. Turn three is any table edge. So if you can survive the Tremor Shell 2 turns, might not be there from 33 on up.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm very surprised to see Devastators, especially Devastators in drop pods. Uh, why? GW is pushing so many cool Primaris sculpts out, so many cool Primaris models. The whole Indomitus box. If you truly think Devastators and drop pods are that great, GW, why do you
Why aren't
do?
they in that box?
Why aren't they in that box? You put out other Primaris Devastator like units to replace these in Indomitus. Show us what those are. Like, I don't know. I think it's a disservice to the community to put out a faction focus like this and then highlight all of these units that you're trying to dumpster essentially by. And I mean, I don't think it's bad that GW's dumpstering old models. They're a company
Yeah.
that needs to sell models to survive. Our game survives if they make money so that they can make more models. But they do this kind of like a little kind of scummy to me personally thing where they highlight this unit. Hey, buy these drop pods, buy these devastators, pay us money for these, and then knowing 3 months down the line you're gonna have to buy these new ones that come out, a new Primaris drop pod, a new Primaris Devastator squad. They're kind of like double dipping on us.
I think what this is they're more or less talking to um, people who are currently playing this army and don't know anything about the new units. Like, I mean, this is somebody named Tony. I don't know who Tony is. Um, they do that on each of the boxes where they're having somebody who's gotten on and I think just played this army. It might have been somebody from GW, but I don't know. And so, hey, this is what I play right now. This is what I think they're cool, and I think it's going to be cool because these are the rules that I already know that are coming out for 9th edition, and that's why they're going to still be okay. I think that's where they're kind of almost dropping the ball.
Yeah,
The faction lores.
I agree. I agree. There's a little bit of a ball drop, but I also think. I mean, I know I talked a little bit of shit on them, and I'm gonna try and defend them now for 30 seconds, but they're scrambling right now. I think you hit the nail on the head in the last competitive corner we did, where you talked about um, how they need money right now. They just came off of this COVID-19 little bit of a recession hit, and they're just trying to shove out as much cheap free information to get the hype up for the new big sell, which is this 9th edition stuff for influx of cash.
Yeah, I mean, it's all money to them. I mean, sit and look at it and like holding 2 or 3 hobby sessions a week on Twitch, and they're doing daily half-hour views of new stuff that's coming out. They're doing that at least 2 or 3 times a week too. Look at Twitch and go, okay, how many people are on there? How many people are subscribing while they're doing this? And it's all free money. So why not only give those spurts of information when you're going to come back and see it again next week or in 2 days? So, I mean, I get it as a business aspect. It's super smart.
Yeah.
So soak up that money while you can. That's why they're doing it with the books too. And I mean, they're their new rules come out in October, November ish. If they can push it out now to get rid of all their profit loss and all that from the last 3 months, why not?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure.
Get on it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. That's my bad.
Yeah, no, you're good. I was like, just get on it. Like, make that money. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure when GW's earnings call is for their quarter because companies can kind of pick their own financial quarters, and they may be wanting to time the launch of Ninth Edition so that they could get that profits for the Christmas quarter end or whatever that is, and see that big uptick where they could make the argument to stockholders, yeah, we lost some money during COVID, everybody did, but did you see how high we rebounded after that? We sold all these ninth edition units. And
exactly, it's that. And I mean, they even went on and said that the stimulus money that they got, they're giving it back to the government, which touche for them.
yeah, that's
It's
great.
more props, and it's just gonna boost morale from everybody else to give them more money. What a great business! They're helping the community, and they're not just sucking life out of it. Good business call.
Yeah.
Their stockholders and all that are just gonna put more money into them. Or are we? I mean, yeah, to be honest.
Oh, okay. So Matt just came in with the clutch save and probably some Google foo. If Nurgle Matt knew when the quarter ended for GW off the top of his head, he's like way smarter than I am. But it sounds like the annual end for GW's fiscal quarter is March. So March, April, May. So April, May, June. June is their Q2.
Which is all the lockdown of Corona. So
yeah. So hopefully, if they get, maybe if they're trying to push, no, they're not going to push ninth edition by June. But then if they get the
comes
one,
out July.
so
I've already said July is the release.
July, August, September, would be the
Those 3 months are going to be.
It'll be their Q3. They're going to try for a big rebound in Q3, which would
it's going to be moving. Yeah. Especially now with not only the books that they already have coming out now, as far as the Psychic Awakening, you're going to have probably another $100 rule book that we got to purchase. Theoretically, all these books that if we're procrastinating on buying because we've all been told we get digital copies of the hard books that we buy. So I'm sure there's some of us that are holding off on buying hardbound books to get that perk. Their new app is coming out for their army builder. The codexes are going to be linked right into that if you buy the hardback or copies. They're also talking about faction terrain being huge and potentially being free inside armies, which, if that's the case, awesome. Then you're going to see some of these things like the Tide Wall, the Nautilus Crown, the Altar of Skulls, these things that you normally aren't seeing in a lot of game. The Wraith, I don't even know what those are called. The perks for Eldar.
are you talking about that like
tall, skinny, like way things have the Wraith head on the side?
Yeah, the warp thing, the
Yeah,
webway portal thing.
it's like a webway portal. I just don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I don't know either.
And then I mean, you're talking any of the Spectre Imperialis. That's going to be free terrain for whatnot, like the statues. Just say those aren't going to be free terrain for Space Marines. So it's going to be huge. And yeah, like Nurgle Matt's saying right now, I mean, I bought 6 new Psychic Awakening books because of chaos, because they're out on like every one factions in each one.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so you're gonna but do you think that tournaments are gonna move away from the need to have hard copy books on everything?
No,
No. So you're still gonna need to buy your hard copy book and then
that's what I'm thinking. It's gonna suck. Um, can't guarantee that I will be bringing books like that out. There's too many books. So if I'm playing my standard Nash Army right now, I have 6 books I'm carrying around. So I have 2 more and the new demon book and all that. But I bought that on book. No, the Webway Gate.
gotcha. And what did that Webway Gate? Did you have rules up for it right now? The what the Webway Gate
No,
did?
I can find them.
I think it. I think if I remember correctly, the only thing that Gate did was allowed you to come in from the webway at that location, uh, and it got around the 9-inch rule from having to come in.
Vacation at work, maybe. See if I can find it on the scribe here. 90 points. Mobile. Shimmering Arrival is when you set this model up during deployment. You set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 12 inches away from your enemy's deployment zone. More than 3 inches from any other piece of terrain. Subways 8. If it's destroyed, both pieces go. 14 wounds, 3 up save. And then the webway strike is after you set up this model, any Aeldari units have not set up during deployment, other than fortifications, can be set up in the webway. Set them up wholly within 3 inches of the webway, but more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So it's pretty trashy.
Yeah, that is kind of sad. I mean, it may allow you to null deploy in 9th edition, which would be cool. Because it sounds like that's going to be a thing for some armies to just null deploy.
Yeah, there's going to be some. But the problem is if this thing gets shot off the table, anything that you put in it
died.
is destroyed.
Yeah.
So unless you have more than one, I mean, you're putting a lot of eggs in one basket and have something surround it.
Yeah.
I mean, even with me playing my Slanesh, I'd feel pretty bad if I just walked up and surrounded that thing, turned one. I'm like, what are you going to do now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, armies like orcs, demons, chaos space marines, anything that could pick a unit up and then replace it down somewhere, that could just auto deny the flanking coming in, auto deny like anything, like a squad of 30 boys that gets dejumped. If you're playing against someone who null deployed, just go 2 inches apart and wrap yourself around the whole board. Like, you'll stop them from coming in. I think it's a very risky move to null deploy, and it will only even work against certain armies.
It's can't see me really ever using it. I use outflank once or twice. Depending on how that works out, what I got to do to use it, but just because it'd be kind of interesting to see periods or whatever coming off the back end of the table.
Yeah. I think
deal with those.
Oh, there's
Thunderfighter cannons.
There's one more. There's Necrons. We missed a faction focus, or I missed a faction focus. How they play in the new edition's pretty much the same. We talked about this during the competitive corner. So just to briefly go through it, if you want to see a more in-depth review on the Necrons faction focus, go and look at our old competitive corner from Monday, or it'll be on repeat today. after this episode. But the Solar Fury, we talked about, they get the extra AP. It'll be great for their vehicles because they're going to be able to shoot in close combat anyway. And the Shard of the Deceiver, the Grand Illusion being interesting but not necessarily amazing or needed. And then the Death Ray with Blast. And you brought up how cool the new warriors are going to be with their Gauze of Reapers.
Being theoretically neg 3 and all that.
Yeah, neg 3 at like rapid fire range is so good. Because you're eliminating. I mean, there's still damage 1, so there's strength 5. That's just really good. It's just really good all around.
Wound on 3, neg 3. Yeah, hit on 3, wound on 3. Most people are only going to have a 6-up save at that point, or Marines. I'm going to delete some stuff with them.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that they did show sprues from the Indomitus, and it's not like a heavy weapon that you can only take a couple of. You're gonna, at least it looks like you could take a Reaper on every warrior if you wanted.
The new box set is a 20-man squad, and there's 20 of each weapon in it.
Yeah, and then you mentioned also that the new warrior box that you can buy by itself is also a 20-man squad. So
yeah, that's what I was saying.
Oh, I got it. Okay, yeah. So that's gonna be real cool.
Hoping the price point is pretty standard on it, not through the roof.
Yeah. I'm curious because GW I think is making a lot of interesting and some good. We'll see how good it is from a business perspective at the end and how much it pays off. But some, in my opinion, good business moves to try and make money. I would hate to see them price some of this stuff so astronomically out of where people can afford right now due to the crisis. Maybe they take a little bit more hit by bringing the prices down in order to let more people buy.
I'm curious on what they're going to have to do. I mean, especially with a lot of these stores, you can still, local stores, you can still order from, but they're hard to get stuff in because of shipping and all that. And it'll be interesting to see because I know stores aren't always thriving in this time either.
Yeah. Now, another unit that was released this week, the bikes. We got full stat lines on these bikes now. The Indomitus Crusade Primaris bikes. And man, I think they're really good. They're scary good.
I want to know more about their weapon.
The chainsword, the Primaris chainsword?
They're bolters that they have on their bike, if they're heavy bolters or not.
Oh. Interesting. If they're heavy bolters, they're bikes, so they're not, I don't think they're infantry. They get to move and fire heavy weapons without the -1.
Yeah, and if it's a twin link heavy bolter, they each have 6 shots each. So
okay, so I didn't think about that. I didn't think about them maybe having twin-linked heavy bolters on the front of those, but
it looks bigger than a bolter.
If that so is
their normal stalker rifles are bigger though too. So I'm not sure, but I mean, even if they're stalker bolters,
you might be right. I didn't look at it that closely, but it looks like the drum mag from the heavy bolter is pointing out the side.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. The downside of that is if those are twin-linked heavy bolters, that's got to be 100-point model at least. Like,
I would assume so because I mean, even the new legged Walker Necron dudes are like 3 models for 240 points, so they're expensive.
Yeah, but
I would assume that these are on the same price point.
Even so, that's 3 models for about 300 points. You're putting out 18 heavy bolter shots, and then charging in with, I heard someone say 4 attacks a piece, because the chainsword gives them the +1, but I think it's only 3 because it looks like they're 2 attacks base.
Oh, then they have hateful charge.
Oh, got it. Okay. Well, then they get an extra attack. Ooh, that's man. That's they're chewing through infantry so well.
So there's some interesting things that's going on with them. They look more like heavy bolters to me than the other bolter.
So White Scars players, I think I run a full squad of these guys. Maybe do you think 3 is a full squad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think you.
So 3 squads of 3 of these guys is 900 points, and then I wouldn't worry about any anti-infantry weapons other than that ever.
Okay.
And then
Yeah, and I mean, even in the Blue Boys, the Smurfs, they're going to be good because they first have the ability to combat and shoot again.
yeah.
Which, if they're going back to the whole thing of not being able to fall back and shoot, these guys are going to be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That the White Scars, they can't fall back and I think their White Scar bikes can fall back and shoot. They just all White Scars can fall back and charge too. I think so. I don't know. I don't know if an all bike army would be useful. It would definitely you'd need some sort of anti vehicle equivalent in there. Maybe put those buggies with the multi meltas as your anti vehicle equivalent. But man, that would be really it'd be a really interesting and I think fun army because of just the sheer speed of it. White Scars advancing and charging, that means you got 20 inches of movement before your charge. So you're looking at 32-inch threat range on a 44-inch board. Like, it's real gross.
And I think assault is going to be pretty prevalent in this edition.
Yeah. The
nice needs it every now and then.
I don't
kind of be their whole theme of going back and forth between shooting and assault.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how they'd stack up against another assault army though. Like thinking about your Slaanesh demons against these bikes.
The problem is, I mean, it's still 5 and 4 wounds a model. It's a lot of wounds to chew through.
Yeah, but I think you do it. I think you could with Slaanesh, you got the movement and the body numbers to wrap them so they can't get out.
Yeah, I mean, a 30-man squad, you put them down, but at the same point, I mean, now you're doing point for point.
Yeah.
And depending on what type of board you're playing on, I mean, we're playing your standard spearhead, not going to do too much, but Dawn of War or Hammer and Anvil, it's going to take me 2 or 3 turns to get to you. So that's 2 or 3 turns of free shooting you get.
Yeah. And if you leave me any room to get around you with 20 inches of movement, I'll get around you. I'll move. I may be able to get, squeeze out an extra turn of shooting. And then if I get an extra turn of shooting, and if you're right, they're shooting heavy bolters on the front of those. That could be devastating to seekers, devastating to the witch elves, not witch elves, but your demonettes.
Demonettes and all that. Yep. Well, then there'll be if anytime I gotta start taking morale, I mean, what they're doing with morale because it's not really fully all that yet. Besides, it's getting changed.
Yeah,
be devastating. You only lead 7. You start losing 3 dudes, and you're failing leadership checks.
Yeah. The only thing I think, like how I would try and fight them with Eldar, is that I use those Eldar planes, the Hemlock bombers. If they're Space Marines, so they're probably only leadership 8, unless there's a character that makes them leadership 9, and they get a reroll. and there's only 3 models, so they're not usually worried about leadership, and not a lot of Space Marines build leadership defenses into their lists. But with that Hemlock Wraith Fighter, you can go -2, -3 leadership with a spell. I put them down to leadership 5, and then I kill one bike. I could make a whole other bike run away.
I was playing around with a Slaanesh army that was all leadership based, and you get up to -8 leadership with Slaanesh.
Oh wow! I didn't. How are you doing that? Like I didn't even know that was that big. Even at Dark Eldar, I wasn't getting anything more than -4.
There's Fiends whose strat is -2 on top of their buff, so that's -3, and then there's 2 psychic powers for -2, and then the new keeper has neg one, -1 or -2, and then there's a warlord trait for another -1.
Wow, that's an extremely effective minus leadership bubble around most your army.
Really, like I don't know how well it would work, but theoretically, you kill one dude, and you're wiping squads right now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you get a reroll. If you're -8 on top of losing one guy.
That's where the whole smite and all that is, or they have an ability where it's pick a unit and roll a d6 for each model in the unit. And on a 6, they take a mortal, so you get one mortal on there. And go, oh, there's that squad dead. So
Yeah, that's so gross. Now that that's CP heavy, but with 9th edition, and we're already talking about like all the CPs you're gonna get. 2,000 point games, you're getting 12. We touched this as a little bit of a point we touched on the competitive corner. So if you want to hear us talk about it a lot more, go listen to that video on Monday. But do you think that they're going to keep competitive games at the 2,000 point level, or like when we saw some of those games going down to the 1850, which meant that you're only getting 6 command points total at the beginning of the game at 1850?
I think everything's gonna stay at 2,000. Just that's the way the game is designed right now. That's what the table size is swapped to as well. With most of the as soon as that rumor hit or the truth came out of the change of table size, almost all of the large events got in and said, we're going to that table size. So if they're going to that table size, they got to be committed to going with a standard game type.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I can see that. I can agree with that. I think for the events that I'm running in the future, I'd try and push for an 1850 or smaller tournament, like of because I run a lot of friendly events for those that are watching right now that are either lurking in the back or talking in chat, hanging out. We appreciate you. But Team Bad Decisions does run some more friendly style events at the Michigan GT. And I think if at 1850 we could cut down on the competitive edge of the game to be more inclusive to everybody, but still allow people to play with a lot of the models they like, but they just can't Death Star it as hard. That may be a route we take. But I mean that you just gotta try, you know?
I think we're losing so many points though. I mean, most armies I'm sure are going to be taking probably a 250 point hit, not more, or as they can bring on the table. The points cost upgrades. I mean, like even running 3 squads of cultists, that's already 60 points more than what you were paying. So it adds up big.
That's a great point. So what was the last competitive army? I know it's probably been a while. But what's the last competitive 2,000 point army you brought? Was it Slaanesh?
Well, we did the tournament at Big Storm where I brought the possess bomb there, but um The main, I would say the most competitive I brought was at Michigan GT, which was not.
So you did bring your Slanesh 2,000 point army, Michigan GT, and out of that army, if you had to cut 250 points, would you be looking at the troops? Would you be looking at uh heavy support, and if so, what kind? Like anti-vehicle, like what are you gonna cut when everything goes up more expensive?
The problem that I have with the Slanesh I ran before, I was I was playing all Slanesh, but I had Chaos Space Marines and Demons. So I'm already taking a hit as far as um playing soup and having to play multiple battalions or detachments. So that's going to hurt me. The other thing that I have to change is, well, theoretically, so when the Chapter Proof 2019 came out, which was after the Michigan GT, my standard, the list that I brought to the Michigan GT dropped almost 200 points. So theoretically, I don't know if I'd have to drop much before going up and in points. As far as if I'm looking for a 20% increase of points, I'm back to where I was at, lost 20%. If it's more than that, probably drop one of the HQs. But then again, I'm also probably switching over to just Slanesh Demons. So it's going to be a little bit more tricky because Slanesh relies a little bit on their HQs, and only being having 3 in a battalion makes me have to take a second. I'm going to have to take hits on some of the CP generation there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. I think competitively, I play Eldar the most competitive, or maybe Knights. Um, Knights, I think, are going to move, at least personally, to more of a mini Knight focused, those little Armigers and Helverins list. I may keep some Gallants around.
I think I don't know how much Knights are really going to change because they're already super expensive for what you get. You might lose. Maybe, I mean, basically, I think what you're going to end up losing with the Knights is your CP battery. You didn't need it anyway.
Yeah. So Victor Von Champ just threw out a challenge to us right now to guess the next faction focuses that are going to come out. So there's about 3 a week. So maybe more, but about 3 a week. And what do you think the next 3 faction focuses are going to be?
We'll probably see NIDS. Um, oh goodness, what could the other 2 be? I don't think you'll see Gene Stealer call yet. They're not really going into specifics as far as each faction Space Marines, like Ultramarines and all that. So you'll probably see, I said the NIDS. We haven't seen really Imperial Guard yet, and no third.
So my guess,
maybe something with demons, because we haven't really seen demons yet either.
yeah, my guess is that it's going to be demons, because after releasing the 2 Indominus Crusade faction focuses, they seem to kind of be running in a reverse Psychic Awakening order. So my guess, personally, we'll see Admech and Demons next, because they were the latest before Necrons and there's the Necron release and the Space Marines out of Indominus Crusade. Orcs just had Gazkul Thraka and their release from Faction Focus. The Sisters were in that book from the new Sisters release, and Death Guard. I'm not 100% on why Death Guard was there, but GW does their own thing. So if I had to personally guess, it's going to be Admech, because they just got the new flyers and the new bird people. I'm very angry about the bird people. They're beautiful models. They're pointed the same as Swooping Hawks. Their gun is better, just flat out better than the Swooping Hawks. Their bombs are flat out better than the Swooping Hawks. I'm just a real salty Eldar person right now. But War of the Spider. Thank you, Victor Von Champ. You are exactly right. War of the Spider brought out the Death Guard stuff, which may be why the Death Guard focus came out.
And same with, well, they had Sisters of Silence in there, so that's probably why Sisters got put out too.
So he brought up a good Custodes. That could be another viable one. So Custodes could be one, although Custodes are kind of a niche faction, so I'm not sure they'll get a faction focus, but they might. I mean, I thought Sisters of Battle were kind of a niche faction too, but they got a whole faction focus there. So yeah, AdMech, the Custodes. What came out in the AdMech book? Chaos Knights. So maybe you'll get a Knight or a Chaos Knight faction focus, because that was
there's Knights, Chaos Knights, then or the Knights, Chaos Knights, Demons, and AdMech.
So I think any of those, the ones I don't think you'll see. I don't think you'll see an Eldar one. I don't think you'll see a Dark Eldar one. I don't think you'll see Tau. I don't think you'll, unless there's a big stink. If GW is smelling the fumes of everyone, all the Tau players that are like, oh, I can't Overwatch anymore, and they want to release a faction focus that's like, calm down, everyone. Like, calm your tits. This is what Tau has to fight that. Like, maybe they'll release a Tau faction focus just to make everyone put their pitchforks and torches down. But I think there's some logic to it. I think that you could kind of guess at which faction focus is going to come out next based on going in hype order. They want to keep the hype high. They've just released a bunch of models in these faction lines. Let's get the faction focuses out of these lines to get people thinking, you know? Yeah. That's actually a very interesting point. And then to look at that buggy. We talked a little bit about the buggy, but we just talked about the bikes. Are you gonna if you watch the competitive corner, if you want to have a rules breakdown of the buggy, what kind of weapons it's using, it does look like they're bolters and not heavy bolters, or at least the striker bolt pattern bolters that are on the front of it. From a like a hobby sense, for hobby time, Eric, are you going to be are you running any of these buggies? Are you thinking about picking up any buggies?
I don't play Space Marines.
And then I know that you're kind of doing some commission painting for people. Are you painting up any of these for anybody?
I have not been requested yet for those.
I'm just curious on if people are going to do it, if they're putting the front shield on or not.
To have a front shield, or was that something somebody else made?
I thought it was legit. I thought that the front shield was a legit thing.
I don't think it is.
And the Victor Von Champ is bringing up that you could put Mario and Luigi's face on them and then make them go-karts, and that would be hilarious.
Somebody did that on did it on one of they photoshopped them on.
I think it'd be really cool to have these set up for orcs to bring a bunch of the Speed Freak buggies. But that, given that it's a new GW model, it's probably price point up pretty high. I mean, if you had to speculate, what do you think a box with one of these is going to cost?
You're probably talking 30, 35.
Really? I was thinking double that. I was thinking
big. They're not bigger than a Rhino. That's my thing.
Yeah, and I get that a Rhino is like 30, 35, and they're not bigger than a Rhino, but like you could buy a new release like that warsuit. What was an Indominus warsuit?
45, I think.
I challenge you on that. We're gonna look it up. We're gonna Google foo. I think they're expensive. I think the Indominus warsuits right now are
60.
60. Yeah, and I think it's a similar amount of plastic.
No way. What are those buggies called? No?
I I don't I don't know if they have a name. Oh, they might in that video. They released a new video of the models in the Indominus Crusade box. So let's see if I can jump back to that. Models of Indominus. Is that audio coming through?
Primary box, I think.
Basically,
that they really embellish.
You know, obviously the armored tyre. I think the ground we wanted actors that whole.
You really need to make it as a whole. It affects the smallest things.
So sorry for that audio, but the audio, like I went through that whole video real quick in a bunch of tiny chunks. It doesn't seem like they named that vehicle. They went through the bikes, they went through the Necrons, but they didn't name that vehicle in particular.
Okay.
I do agree. You can give them a red and blue or red and green helmets to pay homage to the bikes. You also can do like a heavy set one for like Bowser or DK. It would be interesting to do a whole set.
The Invader ATV.
Ah. The Invader. That's an interesting name for it. They're doing a lot of cool, like these color swaps for the Indominus Crusade box. The Dark Angels one, that's a Primaris Marine painted up in cream. And isn't the cream for the Death Watch though? Like not the Death Watch, the Terminators of the Dark Angels. I mean, I don't think we have Nick here right now in chat, but Deathwing. So like, that's not a Terminator. That's a Primaris captain or whatever that Primaris lieutenant.
It's the new Shield Guard dudes.
Yeah, that and they added the little Grey Knight sub shield, like heraldry. Was that on all the Space Marines before, or is that just on Grey Knights before?
Mainly just Grey Knights, as far as the shield, the right shoulder pad. There were always bits you could put on other models. It's just very rare that somebody actually.
Yeah. So that's an interesting lore tidbit that, I mean, I guess they could paint anything cream. Any human being could paint anything any color. Oh yeah, don't worry, Victor. You're gonna be like 30 seconds behind. My OBS like crapped out on me today. That's partially why Eric is a Slanesh demon right now, just talking to everyone from the warp. And I'm not able to run in low latency mode for today. So you're gonna be a couple seconds behind. It's not a big deal. But thank you for bringing up that it's Deathwing. But yeah, Deathwing's gonna be more than just Terminators now. If this lore pictures, or they could just be like, hey, let's show the variety of colors we could paint them. What do we have in a light tone?
And I think it's going to be a little bit of both, as far as whether or not you're going to be able to put Primaris Marines inside Space Marines. Theoretically, in my opinion on where this is going, especially with all these new models, is that, and also that GW very much said that models are going into Legends. I think you're going to see your standard tactical Marines kaput.
Yeah.
Just going to go straight to being Primaris, and everybody's going to have Primaris Marines now.
Yeah, I think you're right on that, which is kind of why I think the GW releasing a faction focus on Space Marines and then putting regular Devastators in there is kind of a shitty move.
It's like, I don't think it just makes them go, how much of this stuff can I sell before we're You have to melt this stuff back down.
Yeah, this is the stuff that we have a lot of like stuff on the shelves for. We need to get rid of to make room for the new Primaris line of stuff. Let's make some room, you know.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking for about an hour 45, so I do want to touch base on the idea that we are Team Bad Decisions. I'm Brandon. I'm here with at least in voice from the Warp, coming all the way from the Warp, Eric. We're one of or two of many, multiple people that I don't know what is our size right now, Eric. Are we
16?
16?
I think it's either 14 or 16.
Yeah, 16 or so of us that all come together to play 40K, other wargaming, miniature wargaming games. We're doing 3 shows ish a week. We're doing the competitive corner on Mondays, which is around 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Which
that's what we're running it.
Yep. And then we are talk about the competitive aspect of Warhammer 40K. We'll get into points costs. We'll get into movement. That's where you'll see a lot of the games and the test runs of some of these new models. We'll have a lore show called The Lore Linguist on Fridays, also around 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. That will go into changes to the story. We'll go into changes to the how the new models will affect 9th edition from a lore standpoint. And then the hobby time on Saturdays is at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it encompasses everything about the hobby. If you can't catch any of our videos, we were more than happy to see you in chat and talk to you live. But if you can't do that, we have the VODs that are up. We also run reruns every day at various times during the day for the days that we're not showing content. So you can catch the last week's content in a rerun on any given day. You could watch the VODs here, or you can see all of the old content on YouTube. The Team Bad Decisions on YouTube is our channel. We love to have you comment or subscribe live, but if you can't comment or subscribe or follow us here, you could do that on YouTube as well. I think that is a little bit about it for everything I plug about us. Do you have anything that you want to plug in particular, Eric?
If there's anything you guys want to see or have us talk about, hit us up on Facebook. We'll be happy to accommodate, talk about it when we can. As far as you guys want to talk about Thousand Suns, or you want to talk about a specific chapter of Marines during competitive corner, we can talk about it. Not a problem. I mean, even if you want to see a game of it, we can get on. And as of right now, we have Tabletop Simulator that we're using. This week we'll probably finish up our Eldar versus Slanesh Demons game on Monday. We're more than willing to put a list together, or even if you want us to pilot a list that you guys have, you can do it. Theoretically, with me having the table built and probably next week and everything ordered for it and a mat and all that, I can start streaming videos from home too, and having 1 or 2 people over to play a game.
Yeah. And then the very last thing we'll do before we head out is we couldn't do this without people like you watching, following, subscribing. So since our last show, we had Thunder Cheeks 4619 with a sub. We had Ed the Dread with a follow. Tater Tots for dinner with a follow, and then Frostbite with the sub for 2 months. So thank you guys. We love you. We couldn't do this without you. So, and then just now, Victor Von Champ with the follow. Again, we couldn't do this without you guys. Greatly appreciate you guys. And we'll just stick around. We'll get a rerun set up, and let's make some bad decisions, guys. Peace.
Hey guys.